and sold that land to speculators. A little birdie told me that the Native Americans there are really mean.
That's a bummer for those speculators not speculating on those mean Indians making the land unsettleable. So not only are there criminals causing shenanigans, but it's on unsuitable land. I mean, really, you know we're going to get our way no matter what.
I am claiming this here Yazoo land.
Yazoo land, present-day Mississippi and Alabama.
What?
Our capital is not at Philadelphia anymore. We now have good old Washington as our national capital.
Back in Georgia, South Carolina speculators sued and won in the controversial case Chisholm versus Georgia, saying that they were unable to settle the land because of the vicious Indians.
Yes, but the states don't have any money, so you know what that means. People are not going to be allowed to sue states because there's going to be some law forbidding it. You can sue your neighbor for the dog barking, but you won't be able to sue your state for bad land. I mean, really. Really.
You predicted it, Beth. The 11th Amendment was just ratified this week.
Well, I saw that one coming. People sued the state, and then there will be a new law saying you can't sue the state.
Really?
Now back in Georgia, the state's legislature passed a law granting the Yazoo land to the 4 land companies for 1.5 cents an acre. Apparently, all but one legislature was bribed.
So is that all it takes nowadays?
I mean,
Really? National News Day, we are celebrating our independence. July 4th is the day, and we are celebrating.
Remember that land grant in Georgia? Well, the people found out about the bribes and voted the corrupt lawmakers out and voted new ones in.
Finally, we gotta get those suckers out of there.
The Georgia legislature met and repealed the 1795 land grant to the 4 Yazoo land companies.
That's good, but too little too late.
I mean, they had already sold it to third parties. Really? You couldn't repeal the 1795 land grant sooner? I mean, really?
Really?
Really.
Go.
Fletcher sued Peck in the Federal Circuit Court in Massachusetts on diversity grounds, alleging the title was bad, requesting a refund of his money. Well, how is this possible if the deed clearly read, guaranteed good title? Really?
Really?
Really.
Here we go again, Fletcher versus Peck. How long does it take for our legal system to work? I mean, really?
Really? In the news today, Robert Fletcher appealed to the Supreme Court, who reversed the circuit decision by saying there were errors in the pleadings. Both parties amended their pleadings. The Supreme Court Chief Justice John Marshall found that the original Yazoo land grant was a contract within the meaning of the Contract Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Therefore, ex post facto law dictates that the contract cannot change the obligation of contracts.
Further stating that the clause is to restrain the power of the state legislators over the lives of the property of individuals.
John Peck, counseled by John Quincy Adams, Joseph Story, and Robert Goodloe Harper, associated with the Mississippi Land Company, and Robert Fletcher, counseled by Luther Martin, which made the dispute fiend.
Not genuine.
Still in the news, Fletcher versus Peck, in a unanimous Supreme Court decision, Justice John Marshall stated earlier this week that the Yazoo land was passed to Robert Fletcher legally, therefore the court was ruled in favor of John Peck.
Justice Marshall further states that the 1796 Act repealing the sale of land unconstitutional. Here's John Peck to further explain.
The Georgia legislation violated natural property rights, which were vested, and the law violated the contract clause. No state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Pegg.
No problem.
Once again, Fletcher versus Peck has reared its little head once again.
Congress's reaction to Justice Marshall's decision was hostile. Congress passed a bill, $5 million, to settle Yazoo claims and take title to the lands.
Well, that really seemed to be a waste of time after all was said and done. What was the outcome of all that litigation?
Well, in a nutshell, the case of Fletcher versus Peck, the court held that the laws annulling contracts or grants made by previous legislative acts were constitutionally impermissible because of ex post facto laws.
And since Congress appeared confused and divided about the court's decision, they passed the bill to buy back the Yazoo land.
Really? After all of that, you're going to buy back the land? I mean, really.
Really?
Really.
Really?
Yes! This is an example of what a land contract in the 1800s would look like. Fletcher stated the contract shall not stand.
Here's a quick summary of all the things we went over today.
This is one of the many martial court cases that ruled in favor of the federal government against the state governments.
So even though bribery and corruption were involved in this contract, it still stood valid.
This is one of the many John Marshall court cases that shaped the world we live in today.
Oh my god. That's even worse. Okay. So, and then like after the one about the old men, like, I don't know, like, yeah, really, we all need a second chance.
Really? Okay.
Cheaters, you know, mad. Keegan, run through. Be quiet. You will see the state, and then there will be a new law. I mean, really.
That was not even there. Okay, I just said really because you said really. Okay, really? This is where we go.
I think it went downhill.
Here we go again. Fletcher versus Peck. I mean, really.
This film brought to you by Nick, Jordan, Keegan, Caitlin, and Sheridan.